Beginning your Swiss research. Switzerland lies in the heart of Europe and is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It has a rich history and culture which extends back for centuries and even thousands of years. Many people around the world have ancestors who originated in Switzerland. The purpose of this presentation is to help you to be able to discover and identify your Swiss roots and then be able to extend your family tree back further generations inside of Switzerland. Switzerland today has a population of over 8 million inhabitants. Switzerland is officially known as the Confederation of Helvetia. As a confederation, Switzerland is divided up into cantons, each of which continues to have a large degree of autonomy. Each of these colors on this map represent one of the various cantons of Switzerland. There are 26 of them. 2 of them are semi-cantons or half-cantons. According to the data compiled from the Federal United States Census of the year 2000, the states with the highest percentage of people of Swiss ancestry are the following: Utah coming in at number 1, Wisconsin, Idaho, Oregon, and Indiana.
You did? Yeah. Thank you very much.
If we look at the cities in the United States with Swiss populations, if we use the same United States 2000 census, the 15 cities with the largest population of Swiss Americans are as follows: New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, Portland, Oregon, Madison, Wisconsin, Phoenix, Arizona, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, and Chicago. This map is divided out by the various counties in the United States geographically, and depending on the coloration of the map, the concentration of Swiss people living in the United States is darkened, starting from a very pale color and progressing to the dark red spots. That's where the largest concentrations are of Swiss Americans. If you know that you have ancestors who came to the United States from the Palatinate, which is a part of West Germany, also known in German as the Pfalz, or from the Rhineland, or from the Saarland, or from Alsace, which belongs to France, there is a strong likelihood that at least some of your forebears were originally from Switzerland, particularly if they were of a religious minority, such as the Amish, the Mennonites, or the German Reformed beliefs or faith. Switzerland is a confederation consisting of 26 cantons, each possessing a high degree of autonomy. Beginning your Swiss family history, you need to know or be able to ascertain the following: the surname of your ancestor, the location in which he or she lived, which religious affiliation he or she had, and an idea or a general idea of where he or she lived. What if you don't know where your Swiss ancestor came from exactly? What can you do if you live overseas from Switzerland? Look for a family Bible. Perhaps someone in your extended family has in their possession a family Bible, an old family Bible. It can be in the front, the back, or somewhere between the pages, a list of the families, and it may give you the name of the town or village in Switzerland where your ancestor was actually born, your immigrant ancestor. Look for a grave marker in a cemetery if you know where your immigrant Swiss ancestor was buried in the United States or in some other country. You can look and see if perhaps on the grave marker it indicates the name of the town or village in Switzerland from whence your ancestor came. Look at marriage records. Even if your ancestor was married in the United States, came to overseas from Switzerland as a child or as a baby, it can still be that their marriage record will, in the United States or elsewhere overseas, will list for you the town or village in Switzerland in which they were born. Certainly worth a try. Look for immigration and naturalization documents which gave your immigrant ancestor U.S. citizenship. This as well may indicate the town or origin of your ancestor in Switzerland. Look for passenger lists. There are two kinds of passenger lists: those of people departing Europe and those of people upon arrival in the United States. For leaving Europe, a very good place to try would be Hamburg, Germany. The passenger lists there are available online from Ancestry.com. The Family Search has microfilm of passenger lists from Hamburg that can be looked at a Family History Center owned and maintained by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or known also as the Mormon Church or Faith. And upon arrival in the United States, if they came after 1880, you can look at the Ellis Island records. The Ellis Island records are online. There's a website for Ellis Island records that may tell you where your ancestor came from in Switzerland. Before that time, as immigrants came into New York, they were processed by the state of New York at Castle Garden. Castle Garden likewise has its own online website that you can consult and see if you can get additional information about where your ancestor came from in Switzerland. The Swiss tended to leave Switzerland and emigrate out of Switzerland in groups. Determine where other Swiss people in your ancestors' community came from. If you can find that other people in the town that your ancestor lived in who are of Swiss origin came from a particular part of Switzerland, that gives you a good clue as to where your own ancestor may have also come from. Tools which will help you to get started. Databases of Swiss surnames, contemporary Swiss telephone listings, names of Swiss villages, Swiss gazetteers, Family Search Wiki articles, other websites, and deciphering Old Swiss handwriting. This is the Fuzzy Gazetteer. The Fuzzy Gazetteer is available free of cost online in the internet. It's been developed by an academic group, and it is not only for Switzerland but for the entire world. All of the geographical locations are listed. In this case, at the top in the search box, I have put in a town as I have read it. It's supposed to have been in Switzerland, Suffingen. I don't find Suffingen in Switzerland on a map, so I'm using the Fuzzy Gazetteer, and by typing it in as a search term, the top hit is Sofingen with just one F, and it indicates to me that it's in Switzerland. It gives me the latitude and longitude in Switzerland, where it is, the geographical coordinates, and then that can help me to find it. The others after it are other possibilities of lesser probability, but this is a wonderful way to find things. If you have a document that's smeared, it's fuzzy, it's blurry, the ink is run, there's a hole in it, there's been a tear on part of the page. You can also use wildcards like asterisks to fill in the parts that you can't read, and it will still be searchable. Oh, it's a wonderful search engine. I'd like to give you another example using the Fuzzy Gazetteer. Let's suppose that you know that your ancestor came from Oberville in Switzerland. You don't know anything else, but you know that they came from Oberville. As it turns out, as we search under it, we see that there are 4 different localities in Switzerland with the same name and spelling. Each, of course, has a different latitude and longitude. But by knowing this additional information from the Fuzzy Gazetteer, you can systematically look in all 4 locations until you find your ancestor living in that correct village of Oberville. This is also an online site. It's based upon current day telephone listings and the public listings in the telephone book. And I have put in at the top under the search engine a Swiss surname Late or Let, L-A with umlaut over the A-T-T. This map has divided Switzerland up by counties, and by looking at it you can see the concentration of that name. There's one spot on the map that's orange or yellow. There's a few spots that are green, and the rest of it is gray, and there's nobody in those areas with bearing the name of Late. But by using this, I can narrow my search to those locations where there are people today living with this name. It's better than trying to find a needle in a haystack. And if you have an ancestor with an unusual Swiss name or an unusual spelling of a name, this may be a wonderful way of tracking down where your ancestor came from, especially if you have no other additional information to go on. This is a book, but it's also an online website, Familienbuch der Schweiz. This was compiled in 1962. They went throughout all of Switzerland to looked at the official civil registrations of people by surname and listed where the people lived. In this case, I've put in the Swiss surname Hauert that I have in my family tree. And by looking at this, we can see that there were people named Hauert in 1962 living in Canton Bern with BE, Canton Basel with BS, Canton Geneva with GE, Canton Solothurn with SO, and Canton Vaud with VD. By looking carefully at it, we can learn some things. By looking at the first entry for Basel, we see that the person had been moved in there and been given citizenship in Canton Basel, but in 1956, but they were originally from Großfoltern in Canton Bern. The next one from Basel, we see that they moved into Basel and received citizenship in that canton in 1935, but they originally came from Unterramsern in Canton Solothurn. This is in fact the town that my ancestors came from, was Unterramsern, and you'll notice that it's also listed under SO. And so this is a very good tool for searching for families in Switzerland to see where people are that today in the early 1960s that were bearing that surname. Let's look at this. This is a marriage entry in a church record from the town of Vengi bei Büren, which is in the Canton Bern. We can see that the bride is Annie Hauert. Slightly different spelling than what you saw before, but what is the groom's name? First name, given name is Peter, but what about the last name? It looks like to me like a D, starting with a D and then an I, and the rest of it I'm not sure about it. The next letter could be an R, could be something else. So what will we do about this? By going back to the Familienbuch der Schweiz, what we were just looking at a minute ago, instead of typing in the name of the family, because we don't know what it is, or we type in the city or the municipality, Vengi. By typing in Vengi, I see that there is the surname Dick, D-I-C-K. And indeed, that's what we had just read. It was not D-R something, but D-I-C-K. It's Dick. So now we know what the proper spelling for the surname is of the bridegroom in that marriage was Peter Dick. This is the Genwiki website. Genwiki is a free website. It's the Computer Genealogy Society in Germany, and with Switzerland being a neighboring country to Germany, and with there being over the centuries people moving back and forth between the two countries, they have on their website put together a great deal of information, a lot of articles. These are blue print is links, hard links to online materials that will help you in finding your ancestor. It gives you information about Swiss records and how to go about doing Swiss research and about Swiss history generally, I highly recommend it to you as a way to get background information. Nearly every village and every town in Switzerland has its own website. In this case, what you're looking at, though, is the Civil Registry Office. Everybody in Switzerland is required by law to register births, marriages, and deaths with the Zivilstandamt. This is for the town of Schöpfland in Canton Aarau. And you can see by consulting this that we get at the top, the postal address, the telephone number, the fax number, the email address, and the opening hours that this office is open. By contacting these people, you may be able to get access to the civil records. If the records are very old, it can be that these records have been transferred to the city archive in that area or to the cantonal archive or provincial archive. The people who work, though, at the Zivilstandamt, they will know this, so if you contact them, they can provide you with that information so that you can get access to civil records. Once you have located the place in Switzerland where you come from, take time to read books and or articles on the internet, such as the ones we just saw from Genwiki, regarding the political history of the town and region. To which canton did the area belong to during the time that your ancestors lived there? The religious history of the town and region. Which religious denominations are represented? The economic history of the area. How did the majority of the inhabitants earn living? Where are the occupational or guild records kept? They sometimes are much older than the church records or the civil records. Is there information on which it is given where the inhabitants migrated to or left when they left Switzerland? Sometimes even the Swiss kept track of where people were leaving Switzerland to go to. Here is a picture of a church record, a parish register from 1626 for Holzikon in the canton of Aargau in Switzerland. And this is very typical of what Swiss records look like from the 15 and early 1600s. Here are the guild records in the town of Diessenhofen in Canton Thurgau in Switzerland. And this is for the Hanhart family. They belong for many generations to a guild of Siegler or brick makers or bricklayers, and so by consulting this you can find the entire family over several generations. These records were in the city hall in Diessenhofen. Each of the cantons of Switzerland has a regional archive. Here is the website for the canton of Bern. Bern is the largest canton in terms of geography or territory. It's also located in the heart of Switzerland or in the center of Switzerland. And as you can see here, there is a page on the website devoted strictly to family history or genealogy. And in the sidebar, you get the information of the opening hours of the archive, and you get the postal address, the telephone address, the fax, and where you can write an email to get information. And there's general information here on what kinds of records in the cantonal archive of Bern can be useful for you in doing your family research if you have ancestors that live somewhere inside the canton of Bern. Here's a picture of the cantonal archive for Zurich. Now Zurich also has a city archive, but this is the one for the canton of Zurich, not the city of Zurich. And again, you can see here that it tells you about church books that they have in their possession and other records of genealogical value. Sometimes reading Swiss records in former centuries can be a bit of a challenge, and there are many good books that teach how to read Old German or Old Swiss German handwriting, but I particularly recommend this one here, Deciphering Handwriting in German Documents, by Professor Roger P. Meinert at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, because this book is written in English, and this book is tailored to deal with the kinds of things you will see, including abbreviations, in records of genealogical relevance. And Switzerland is also covered in this book, and it's a good resource. And the book exists also in German from the Brockhaus publishing company in Germany of Oldenburg. Hundreds of Swiss surnames were researched many decades ago by a man by the name of Julius Bieler, or J.C. Bieler. They are all available to view on microfilm at Family Search, which is a website, familysearch.org, or at a family history center. Some are also available to view online. They are not original records, but are rather the handwritten, abbreviated, and typed findings of Mr. Bieler. I've listed here the serial numbers of the microfiche upon which these records are contained by Family Search. This is the website for the umbrella organization in Switzerland for genealogical research. Many of the small local genealogical societies in Switzerland belong to this umbrella organization, and it has information in 4 languages: German, French, Italian, and English. And this is another place you can go for advice or for direction, or to find perhaps a researcher that can help you in the country to search out your Swiss ancestry. This is the online website for the telephone book in Switzerland. If you happen to have an unusual surname or a name that isn't particularly common, you can type in the name of the surname that your ancestor had and find the people in Switzerland who still have that last name, where they lived, their telephone number, their address, and you can contact these people. I've done this on a number of occasions and have had good success in having people respond favorably to me and provide me with additional information. In the sidebar to the right, you will see the link on the internet to this page for the Swiss White Pages. Swiss